My name's Brandon and this is Nickelodeon Video Game History, a show where I take a look back on all of the video games based on Nickelodeon shows and retrospectively review them. Despite Hey Arnold the movie being a bit of a flop, Nickelodeon didn't seem to be too discouraged when it came to sending their TV shows to the big screen. Sure, Hey Arnold wasn't the smash success of the Rugrats films or Jimmy Neutron, but the formula was working for the most part, and that film only cost $3 million to make, so it wasn't a major investment. What would have hurt was the performance of their next two films, both of which starred the Wild Thornberrys. The Wild Thornberrys Movie and Rugrats Go Wild released within 6 months of each other, both costing $25 million to make and only pulling in $60.7 million for Thornberrys and $55.4 million for Go Wild. Film budgets never take into account marketing costs, so the general rule is that a film needs to double its budget to be profitable. Both of these films fall into that category, but only just, a far cry from the first two Rugrats films in Jimmy Neutron. We're specifically looking at the Wild Thornberrys movie today though. It opened in the US on December 20, finishing a disappointing 6th at the box office on its opening weekend. A big reason for the Wild Thornberrys box office performance can be attributed to the fact that The Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers also opened the same week. It wasn't all doom and gloom though. The film was nominated for Best Original Song at the Academy Awards for Father and Son by Paul Simon. As I already mentioned, it was only roughly 6 months later that the Thornberry family were back at the movies, with Nickelodeon attempting a crossover between it and Rugrats. While it is an interesting idea on paper, talk about oversaturation. Two Wild Thornberrys theatrical films within half a year of each other is a bit much. Enough about the film though, we're here for the video game adaptation. Every Nickelodeon animated film has received one of these so far, and this is a trend that would actually last until 2019. Wonder Park was the first animated Nickelodeon theatrical film to not receive a handheld or home console video game. The Wild Thornberrys movie would hit both the PC and GBA, with the GBA version landing on store shelves on November 13, 2002. This was over a month before the film came out. I get releasing a game a little earlier than the film as a marketing play and an attempt to drum up excitement, but this far out seems insane. Not to mention it spoils the entire plot of the film. The developers in charge here were Humansoft, who we don't exactly have great history with. They developed both of the Jimmy Neutron GBA games we've played so far. The movie game was quite poor, but Jimmy Neutron vs Jimmy Negatron was a hilarious train wreck. I have zero hopes for any game that features them in charge. Strap yourselves in, the Wild Thornberrys movie could be a disaster. You know you're in for a rough time when a game's menu is fucked up. When you press start on the title screen, you're taken to this little 3D area that acts as the main menu. This alone isn't that weird. So many games around this era, some of which I've reviewed, were infatuated by this idea of a playable menu. The problem with the Wild Thornberrys movie is that its menu is so vague. Take the difficulty settings. Rather than just saying easy, medium and hard, you have to decipher what this monkey is doing. Come on, just make a simple menu that makes sense at a glance. Gameplay wise, it's everybody's favourite genre yet again, minigame collection. While we covered a party game style minigame collection last week with Rugrats I Gotta Go Party, the Wild Thornberrys movie is the other style of minigame collection we've seen a fair bit. This is where the game presents itself as a single player linear experience, but every single level is just a different minigame. There's even a character who acts as the game's narrator that refers to each set of levels as minigames, so that's great. The first level starts things out pretty basic. Your goal is to run around as Eliza and protect some cubs from poachers, and also avoid being stomped to death by elephants and zebras. Gameplay is simple and boils down to pressing A to pick up the cubs anytime the poacher's helicopter starts hovering over one of them. Eventually, the timer runs out and you've won. As you play this level and practically every level in the game, there are a handful of power-ups. Some power-ups effects were completely lost on me, but the most notable ones were the increased movement speed and the one to alter the level's time. The speed power-up is hilarious as it turns Eliza into an Olympic level sprinter. On the other hand, the timer you pick up either increases the amount of time remaining in a level if it's a race against the clock, or it reduces the time in a level if it's a level where you need to run out the clock. The second level has Eliza hanging from the poacher's helicopter as it speeds away, which means it's up to the family to chase her down in the Convy. This level is surprisingly hard, particularly when you consider it's something you're playing like 3 minutes into the game. You'll be dodging trees and rocks to try and catch up to the helicopter, and if you take too much damage, it's game over. Thankfully, there's a repair power up to keep you going, because trust me, you're going to smash the fuck out of the Convy here. Once you do catch up to the helicopter, you're supposed to stay under Eliza for a few seconds so she can hop down, but this proves to be weirdly hard. Keeping a perfect pace with the helicopter is just not something this game was designed for. Messing up this level sees the poachers take off with Eliza for good, which is actually quite funny to see.
Goodbye.
Next up we play as Darwin, where we have to defend more cubs. This level has the same spirit as the opening one, but it tweaks the formula a bit. Poachers are attempting to climb up some vines and grab a few cubs, so it's up to Darwin to throw pineapples at the poachers until the time runs out. To make it a little trickier, you also need to keep an eye on the cubs, because they're desperately trying to run away. It's a constant rotation between picking up pineapples to throw and picking up cubs so the stupid babies don't run off and die.
Stupid babies need the most attention.
Level 4 is quite possibly the worst stealth section I have ever played. Eliza has been sent to boarding school, and also Darwin has been locked up for some reason. There are a lot of blanks in the story that I presume make sense to people who have seen the film, but I haven't, so it's all a bit nonsensical. I don't even think using the word stealth is correct here. You don't fail if you get spotted or anything. These ridiculous looking bad guys will come after you if you're spotted, but you can easily just outrun them. You can hide in cupboards if you want, but it sure as hell isn't necessary. Eliza's goal is to find 4 different coloured keys. These unlock a number of doors until you're finally reunited with your monkey pal. At one stage I found the green key, but it wouldn't open the green door. After some extra exploring, I found out that there were 2 green keys. Why would you do this? There are roughly 10 gajillion colours in the world, and for some reason you've decided to repeat colours when you've only got 4 keys. Pick another colour. And then something amazing happened. The game crashed. I have been playing GBA games almost constantly since the handheld was released back in 2001, and I can count on one hand how many times I've ever had this happen. Moving on to level 5, you're tasked with stumbling through a maze, which also has a bunch of coloured keys you need to collect. This isn't too bad, and certainly isn't the worst thing I've experienced so far in the game, but it's ridiculously tedious. Firstly, the lack of a minimap hurts it so much. Without this, you don't have the vaguest idea where to go, and where you've already searched, so you inevitably stumble around in circles for way too long. Exacerbating this issue is the walking speed. It makes exploring an even bigger pain. You do find a bike randomly at one point, which is kind of bizarre, but I imagine it would be super easy to completely overlook this. Level 6 is the same idea as Darwin's earlier level, but this time you're on a train. Rhinos are running alongside it, but of course those dastardly poachers are trying to nab them. To save the day, you toss luggage at the encroaching jeep until each and every one of them gets to safety. This is dull and takes way too long, but I'll give them credit for one thing. Usually developers would just straight up reuse their minigame ideas. Humansoft have at least taken the core idea for their minigame and then transformed it enough that it doesn't feel like the exact same thing yet again. They do this a number of times throughout the game, and it was pretty refreshing to see. Level 7 is another example of this. At its heart, it's just the Convy level again, but there's enough tweaks to make it different. Here Debbie is speeding along on a motorbike that controls horrendously. Turning is so freaking touchy, and the combination of speed and tight spaces in the level make it impossible to adequately avoid obstacles. To make it through this nightmare, you really need to slow down and be careful, but of course the game is making you race against a timer where the only solution is to slam the accelerator down and hope you make it to the end. Level 8 is another maze game that doesn't do enough to differentiate itself from the earlier level. Instead of collecting keys to open doors, you'll collect bananas to set off traps, allowing you to move forward unharmed. The changes here are mostly just cosmetic, and at the end of the day you're once again stumbling blindly through a maze. A minimap really would have been nice, especially for this level. There's no sense of which direction you're supposed to head in for this one, meaning you're stumbling around worse than ever. Eventually, you just end up at your target without ever feeling like you knew what was going on. Level 9 is one of the most broken parts of this game, and that's really saying something. On the surface, it's basic. Some animals are drowning in a river, so Eliza and Darwin head out on a raft and bring them to safety. The problem here is you're racing against a time limit that doesn't work. Humansoft have seemingly fucked up a countdown clock. Just look at this. Why is the timer ticking down way faster than an actual second is? My initial attempts at beating the level were all thwarted by this, but then all of a sudden the timer would gain insane amounts of time whenever I scooped up an animal, meaning I ended up beating it with hundreds of seconds left. It's all utterly baffling. An idea this simple shouldn't be so complicated. Level 10 is the final level on paper, but in reality there's 3 parts to it. To start things off, you have to follow a butterfly around to grab pieces of a medallion that somehow allow Eliza to turn off an electric fence that these dumbass elephants are running towards. Why is every animal in this game so dumb? The butterfly you're following acts as your GPS, but it's terrible. The direction it's pointing you in is so vague a lot of the time that it really isn't helpful. And at the end of the day, there isn't much gameplay here. You just run from piece to piece and then the fence. The second part of the finale is just a game of Frogger. Wouldn't be a game in this style without some sort of homage to Frogger. Finally, the game comes to a head with a climatic boss battle. Witness Eliza ride an elephant and smack a helicopter with its trunk a few times before the day is saved. Once the helicopter crashes and the poachers have presumably died, the game is done and dusted.
Oh my god!
45 minutes is all it will take to experience the Wild Thornberrys movie from start to finish. You could almost beat this game twice in the amount of time it actually takes to watch the film. This is just such a passionless project from Humansoft.
There is no passion, there is no vision, there is no aggression!
It's actually quite different to how I felt about their previous 2 games. Their Jimmy Neutron titles are not good, but it felt like they were trying and had put genuine effort in. Considering this was the 3rd Nickelodeon game they'd released in under a year, it's not too surprising to see the Thornberrys got the short end of the stick. Heck, Jimmy Negatron had released less than 2 months ago. The presentation aspects are one area where Humansoft has particularly struggled. Neither of their previous GBA titles looked good, and the Wild Thornberrys might be the worst of the lot. It's ugly as sin. The character models are painful to look at. They might as well have just made Eliza a blurry mess of pixels instead of actually trying to recreate her. And while the dialogue isn't hilarious, nonsensical gibberish like Jimmy Neutron, there are a number of times where they make grammatical errors. It's just clear that Humansoft are way out of their depth with these games. The fact that they've managed to hang around and still exist in the present day is genuinely impressive. The Wild Thornberrys movie on GBA is god-awful. The visuals are disgustingly poor, the gameplay is bare bones and bland, and it's clear the developer in charge of this doesn't really give a shit about the property they're representing. Don't bother with this game. It somehow makes the other Wild Thornberrys games, which have been pretty poor for the most part, look like overwhelmingly enjoyable experiences. This was damn near the last Wild Thornberrys game too. They'll get one final crack with Rugrats Go Wild, also on the GBA in 2003, which just so happens to be the final hurrah for the original Rugrats series too. I don't know if it's recency bias, but it feels like Nickelodeon's video game history has much lower lows than Cartoon Network so far. Sure, most of the early Cartoon Network games were bad, but they weren't this bad for the most part. For every Revenge of the Flying Dutchman we get, there's half a dozen Party Blasts or Jimmy Negatrons. Next time, we'll be looking at the final ever Rugrats home console game. Rugrats Royal Ransom sees the show finally make the leap to the next generation of home consoles, marking its first non-handheld release since Rugrats in Paris. I've heard a lot of mixed things about this game, so it'll be interesting to go hands-on with it finally. To catch that review, make sure you hit the subscribe button.